In an ever-evolving digital landscape, for your business to thrive, you must adapt or die. Welcome to Marketing in the Age of AI, the podcast helping you harness the power of AI and marketing tools to revitalize and grow your business. And now here's your host, marketing expert and author of Authentic Marketing in the Age of AI, Emmanuel Rose.
Welcome to this episode of Marketing in the Age of AI. Today, we're going to dig into looking at how we can start thinking about those initial implementations, those initial automations, and maybe even some agent play if the project is sophisticated enough for that. We'll be definitely talking about how the process by which you can take a process that hasn't been automated before, or maybe that's a legacy process, and thinking about how to break it into steps and then how to deliver those steps to the guys on the tech side to get the outcomes that you're looking for. And joining me today are the partners from AIAsystem.com, very experienced and capable men, dating all the way back, I think, into the early 2000s at tech. So Maurice McCabe and Dustin Jensen, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, Dustin, we had a great talk a couple weeks ago about AI in general, and today we're going to bring it down into a finer point of once a group or a small business decides, hey, I want to embrace this change, then what is the next step that they get into from your perspective?
Well, I can take this one if you like, Dustin.
You're the star today.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a new kind of tool set that we have. It's a new tech stack, and we have new tools that we didn't have before a couple of years ago, and we can now automate workflows that weren't possible to automate as of just, like I said, a couple of years ago. Yeah. So this is like an opportunity that's it's a long time promise that AI had this incredible capability, and it's now finally coming to realization. The Gen AI, the generative AI stack from companies like OpenAI with their ChatGPT, and Google with their Gemini, in particular their 2.5 version, and even Anthropic with their Claude version of Sonnet 3.7. Those are kind of like those are the foundational models that make everything that we're talking about possible.
Right.
And it then becomes a question of how do you generate what we're calling agents that can automate discrete tasks that can be useful to the company, that can have some ROI, a return on investment. And because it's possible to sort of pontificate about what can and cannot be done, and set the wrong objectives and possibly go in the wrong direction if you don't really have the foundation or grounding in what these agents are capable and not capable of doing. And how you design those agents becomes a kind of an important issue with respect to the workflows that need to be automated. And the kind of workflows that can be automated are workflows that, like I said, weren't possible in the past. And they usually have this quality where they contain non-structured data. So the non-structured data is things like how we're currently speaking. Right. We're speaking using non-structured data. And how we're writing would be, even though it's grammatically correct or incorrect or whatever it is, it does have structure, but it doesn't have this very strict structure like you would think of as in terms of data that you would put into a database. Right. That's considered kind of structured data. So in contrast to that highly structured data, we have what we're considering unstructured data. It does have grammatical structure, otherwise these foundational models wouldn't be able to really understand them. It wouldn't make sense to you or me.
Right.
It might make sense to the generative AI models.
Yeah.
So it has that kind of at least that kind of grounding or foundation that even though the term unstructured data, it does have a lot of structure. It's just
right, just not database structure, right?
Yeah, it's just a technical term that doesn't really have much meaning in common parlance, but as a technical term, it makes sense.
So, so if I'm looking at a project, how do I start to deconstruct it to be able to put it in front of somebody like you, Maurice?
Yeah, that's a great question, Manuel. I would say that you have to have a really good understanding, and it depends how complex and in depth that you want to go, because we're kind of cutting new ground here. This is sort of a territory that hasn't really been explored, but it's not unfamiliar. It's not completely unfamiliar territory, because the people who are the subject matter experts are the real people who know intimately how this kind of unstructured data works in combination with any structured data, which might be a big asset to the enterprise. Being able, these subject matter experts have worked for many years, refining and fine tuning and honing these workflows in conjunction with their structured data, and they've put a lot of manpower on them, and they've got them fine tuned to the point where they are as efficient and well targeted and well adapted to the problem set that it's addressing, as well as they possibly can. So these are the people who we would talk to, and we would be talking to them and saying, let's extract your workflows. You probably have more than one workflow, or you know how to decompose your overall department. Let's say you have a departmental workflow, looking at it from a very high level point of view.
Right.
The marketing department, this is all of its tasks and responsibilities. And we have all of our staff, we have all of our systems, information systems with their structured data. And now we have all of these workflows that capture this data. Some of it gets distilled to a point where it gets entered into the structured data, the database. It could be Salesforce, it could be any other kind of CRM, HubSpot, or any other, even other kinds of, could be just spreadsheets, could be any kind of representation of structured data. And we would then try to find out, where does this data originate from? How is this data originally captured? How is it refined? And what happens before it gets to the database? And we would look at that part of the workflow, and we would say, which parts of this workflow are good candidates for automation using this new Gen AI tech stack, generative AI tech stack? And we would be able to identify just how complex some of these workflows are. And over the years, when these SMEs have been working on their projects, they've become fairly complex in most cases. And so we would then have to decide, is one agent enough to do this, or do we need a collection of agents to get this properly? And the reason why you break it up into smaller and smaller numbers of agents, or larger and larger numbers of agents, I should say, operating on smaller and smaller tasks, is so that you reduce this concept of hallucination. Human beings are kind of subject to hallucination as it is, and we could be living in a simulation now for all we know.
Right.
That's kind of like just taking it to the logical extreme. But these foundational models have inherited that kind of hallucination, if you will.
Sure.
I don't know if they've inherited it, but they do exhibit it, because they're kind of statistical models, and our brain kind of works in that kind of statistical model sense as well. We're only able to run on, I think it's 30 watts that our brain runs on, and you got to sacrifice. You got to constantly be pruning parts of your brain and your different expertises. They fade if you don't reinforce them. And likewise, well, that doesn't happen with the Gen AIs, but they also have to focus on certain parts of their expertise so that they can reduce the chances of this kind of hallucination. So there's a little bit of comparable analogy there that might help you try to understand, or it might help you in understanding how to relate to this concept of hallucination. But it is the reason why we break it down into small and smaller steps. So to get to that level, you need to capture these, what we would call generally the requirements. And so you need like a project requirements document. You would try to distill it down to these lower levels if it's necessary, which we would generally expect it is necessary. And then we go down. Then we get down to the level of where we can start firing up a project and bringing in the dev team. Make sure they have the right skill sets, and then do the project management and start delivering these agents. And this is done on an iterative type of basis. So the project would be delivered in its early form, and then we would get feedback, and then we would redeliver based on that new feedback. And it generally grows in complexity and depth and capability.
Yep.
And I may have jumped ahead a little bit, because before you even fire off the project, you do have to estimate the ROI. So like when you're picking out these workflows with the SME, just to take it back a step,
Sure.
we would pick the candidates that are a good fit for return on your investment. So you would figure in how many people can we free up from these kinds of repetitive, low value tasks that but that are not possible to automate up until now. So it did require putting in hours of time. Those tasks are the tasks that have the best ROI.
Right.
So if we can automate those tasks that have the highest number of people with, let's say, the lowest amount of complexity, those are the ones that we would typically pick first.
I love it.
That's the low hanging fruit, basically.
I love it. Yeah, so we have a couple ideas to make the assessment with. One would be what's the most number of, say, hours that people are spending on a task. Maybe what could we get from the developers? They've already created something similar, and so it's kind of an all businesses are dealing with this, and then what could we implement maybe the quickest.
Right. And speed is the other factor as well. So that's a very good point, is that you often don't want to bite off the biggest project that has the highest ROI,
right.
Because it's a big deliverable, and you want to find a way to build confidence with the enterprise, and with the stakeholders in the enterprise and stakeholders of these workflows. And this is like I said, it's a whole new toolkit.
Yeah.
So it's opening up opportunities that didn't exist before. But so you need to have a proof of concept, basically, or a proof or a pilot. Yep. that something of this nature can work. The CMO, the CEO, the CTO, they all have to have confidence that this is meaningful for their enterprise, and that they can redirect budgets to this because they can see the value that it will return in a matter of 3 to 6 months, let's say.
Yep. And in general, and in some of your more recent projects, what kind of ROI are you seeing, or hours saved in a 3 to 6 month window?
Well, we're seeing a lot of case studies that show that the ROI is very meaningful. It's if you can imagine, you're hiring a person, they may be at a mid-level, let's say mid-range salary or something like that, and they're spending a lot of their time on functions or workflows or parts of a workflow that are not that don't return as much value as other parts of their workflow can return. So we're seeing like that the underlying time sink on low complexity tasks but time consuming tasks are where we see the best ROI. And we're talking, we're eliminating maybe 20 to 30% easily of that low low value, low complexity portion of their daily work routine.
Maurice, with like the drug trial, how much time do you think that was saving? You know, with the raters and things. I mean, it might be more than 30%.
Yeah. Well, with the Raiders, like I'm speaking conservatively because the numbers are a little bit too fantastic and they become a little bit unbelievable.
It's hard to believe it if you're saying, hey, we're saving 90% of one FTE.
You can't come out of the gate saying that.
Yeah.
You just don't have,
Nobody believes that.
No one's going to believe it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, eventually we will get to that point as the tool sets mature and the agentic tool sets like LangChain and LangGraph and Crew AI and other platforms like Google just released a new one with their A2A, and there's MCP, MPC, and other kinds of tech parts of the tech stack that are starting to mature. Things are going to accelerate in terms of how better the ROI will become over time. We're literally coming up that learning curve, and that even the foundational model guys are coming up that learning curve. The existing Gen AI models are going to change fairly soon. They're going to become much more capable, and
every one of these LLMs is going to be an agent creator, right? I mean, that's where we're headed.
Yeah. Eventually, yeah. The programming language of the future is is English,
right?
And the real art here is how well can you specify your workflow in English, right?
Yeah.
And right now, it's not smart enough to convert your very precise language into automated workflows.
Yeah.
But it's becoming more and more capable. That's why we can say confidently that we're 10x engineers kind of thing, because we can, compared to the traditional coding methodology, the AI assisted coding methodology is at least 10x. But it all depends on how well you can spec it out.
Sure.
And that's where you hit this. It is a bit of an art and a science, knowing how to spec out something very, very well so that it is working with the current Gen AI tech stacks that are out there. In particular, Anthropic. Anthropic is kind of leading that space right now.
Yeah, with the MCP. So, all right. So let me just recap. So, if I'm a CMO at a mid-level company, I want to identify kind of all the broad tasks of my department, and then I want to look and say, how are we delivering these things, and what is the step to deliver each of these broad tasks, and how much time are we spending on it? Yeah. And then from there, then I can meet with you and say, hey, let's take a look at this thing where maybe I don't have a really strong person, or this is costing me too much because I have to outsource it. Can we start here with this nice 10-step process and get a working relationship together? Does that make sense?
Yeah, the way we like to go into an engagement is we can come in as a consultant at the highest level kind of thing, where we do the help with the workflow specification and capturing. We can identify fairly early on which ones are better candidates for automation. Yep. So we can save you a lot of time in that respect. And then when it comes down to actual implementation, we can get thick into the nitty gritty on how to spec it out. And then, like I said, the better you spec it out, the easier it is for us to deliver. And then on the delivery side, we can help you out with platforms. If you're using voice, if you're using telephony a lot, we can help with automating the telephony. We have a telephony platform that runs on voice, runs with voice, and has all these Gen AI foundational models built in. And we have agents already set up to work with a lot of common use cases. So we can give you a head start in that regard. And we're also building a suite of enterprise agents that work well in a marketing context. And the other thing too is that this is an opportunity that the window for this opportunity is maybe 6 months to a year. The race to get into a lead position is a lead that you can preserve. It's like a moat that will preserve your competitiveness, and you can you can get a big jump on the marketplace by having these agents working automatically for you before your competitor comes in and tries to do the same thing. If they're 6 months behind, they've lost 6 months of market opportunity to build your position in the marketplace. So I try to emphasize you won't regret taking action, even though it's a step into the unknown. It's very important that you get something started, even if it's a pilot. We would recommend starting with a pilot.
Sure.
Something small. Get it under your belt so that you understand what this technology is capable of. Do it quickly, and then move on to the larger workflow automations.
I love it. Yeah, you and I are aligned on that. Let's get something moving and keep making it better, because we want to be out in the front and not on the tailpipe.
Yeah. You don't want to. The train is pulling out of the station. You don't want to be left on the platform.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate your time and insight today, and I hope I can invite you guys back on in another 2 months or so, and we can see what's changed for you, and we can talk deep dive into what your product offerings are, because I know you'll have a lot of interesting things for us to talk about.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thanks, Dustin. Thanks, Maurice, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.
All right.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, man.
I love it. Let's see. AI, ready, fire, aim. Make sure you document your departments, document your processes, and get the AI customizations, automations, and agents project started so that you can lead your market and be out in front and let the competitors chase you. I hope that today you take some time, dig into some AI tools, find a way to save 20% of your work day, your work week, your work month, and use that time to upskill, to spend it with your friends and family, or to get outside and get into nature and experience being human again. This is Emmanuel Rose, Marketing in the Age of AI.
Thanks for listening to Marketing in the Age of AI. Be sure to subscribe wherever you heard this podcast so you never miss a future episode. Your copy of Authentic Marketing in the Age of AI is available at Amazon.com or EmmanuelRose.com. You can also connect with Emmanuel on LinkedIn.